In this video, we are going to cover Freecodecamp, responsive web design, build a survey form. Welcome to TC. One of the challenges given to us from the web design projects is to build a survey form. So right over here, we have built this Marvel Studio feedback form, which has a couple of input fields, labels, a radio button, a checkbox. At the end, we have the comments, and all the way at the bottom of the form, we have a submit button. Let's build this feedback form. Freecodecamp user stories. If you don't know what user stories are, click on this link over here. It defines you what user story is. We're going to cover all these 16 different user stories, and all the way at the bottom we have this template. Just click on this template, opens in a new tab. Please take time to read through this. Once your reading is done, just delete this and delete this. So I created this code pen, gives you 3 columns, HTML, CSS or JavaScript, and I pulled this further down so that I can cover the C just to show you how the layout is going to be. Since we are not going to use JavaScript, I'm going to close JavaScript, pull it, drag it all the way down. I'm going to leave the bar in the middle. I just wrote the title, which is going to be FCC survey form. So in this video, what we're going to do is we are going to build a vertical default form. And before that, what's the best practices? What you need to do is always create a div that holds a container class. So you're going to give class container, which provides a responsive fixed width for the entire container of yours. So always start with a container or container fluids. It's up to you. For more details, you can look into the W3 school. They should be able to provide more information regarding this. Now, inside that container, what we're going to do is we are going to create a header tag. Type in header, click tab, opens up a header tag. Inside the header tag, we're going to give a title for the fill out the entire form details. So let's go back to Freecodecamp and look at into user story 1. I can see the title with ID, title, and H1 size text. Okay, let's go back. We're going to create H1 tag, and the title is going to be Marvel Studios feedback form. And the H1 tag, we have to provide a ID with title. That's your first step. This is your first story, user story number 1. Now, we're going to look at what's the second user story. I can see a short description with ID description in P size text. Okay, we're going to create a P tag. P, hit tab, opens it up, and a small description would be, thank you for taking the time to help us improve our movies. And the P tag should have an ID of description. For best practices, what you need to do is copy this description from here, like Control C or Command C if you're using Mac, and just paste it over here so that there's no typos available. All right, what we are going to do is we're going to create the form, actual form. User story 3, I can see the form with ID survey form. In order to create a form, all you have to do is type in form, create, gives you an action. We are not going to do action right now because we are not submitting this form to any PHP file or location. We're just going to leave the way it is. But if you look at it, we need to provide a ID. So I'm just going to copy this, Control C, go back, and form has an ID right over here. It's great. Now, inside the form, we are going to provide a name tag. In order to do name tag, labels, inputs, and everything, Once you created the form tag that actually supports input, text area, button, and label, and we're going to wrap all these labels with a class, and I will go through furthermore. This is actually needed for optimum spacing. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a dev which is going to take a class over here. So class form group. If you look up online and type in form HTML5, it gives you the same classes. I'm just following, and the form group will be provides a proper binding for screen readers as well. It will also read it. So we're going to create label, and we need a label for your name, and for will be the name. Let's look at user story number 4. Inside the form element, I am required to enter a name in the field with ID name. Okay, so after the label, we are going to create input. It will be type text, and we need to provide an ID with name. I'm just going to do this, as we are going to add more later. Since it is name, this should be a required field, not an optional field. So that's why we're going to make this as required. Now, after the name is complete, we are going to do the email. So let's do the same thing for email as well. So I'm going to create another dev which will hold a class as form group. Inside that, let's look at our user story. Inside the form element, I am required to enter an email in a field with ID email. In order to enter, you need to create a input. It's going to be text for now, and it has ID email. I'm just going to sort this in this order since we are required, so we're going to make this as required for now. And let's look at user story number 6. If I enter an email that is not formatted correctly, I will see an HTML5 validation error. In order for you to see HTML5 validation error, all you have to do is replace the type from text and change this to email. Automatically HTML5 will validate this for you. You will see it all the way at the end. For the time being, we're just going to leave this here right now, and we're going to come back and fix this later. And now we're going to do the age. So in order to do age, we're going to do the same format, create a dev, and we're going to give a class of form group, and inside the form I can enter a number in the field with ID number. So in order to enter, we need to create a label. I think I missed label over here. It's for, should be email, and ID should have email. Okay, semicolon, that's right. And for label, I'm going to do this again. For label, age, and we're going to add input, type, text for now, ID, they want as number, ID, enter. If I enter a non-numbers in input, I will see HTML5 validation error. In order to see the validation error, we're going to change the type from text to number. That is going to show us the validation, and this should be we can do this required or we can do it as optional. Let's do it as required. And let's go to user story number 8. If I enter a non-number HTML5 validation, okay, we did that validation part. If I enter numbers outside the range of the number input which are defined, the min and the max attribute, I will see HTML5 validation error. In order to see the min and max, all you have to do is go back to your input field over here. I'm gonna go further up, say min, let's say age of 10, and max, say 100. I don't know, maybe I'll place it at 100 and just save this. We did min and max. All right, let's look at user story number 10. For the name, email, and number input fields inside the form, I can see corresponding label that describes the purpose of each field with the following IDs name label. Since we haven't created any IDs, so I'm going to copy this for the name field. Where is our name? Name field. Gonna paste it over here. Go back to responsive ID for the email. Copy. Go back. Check your labels over here. Enter. Go back to your responsive for the ID, which is going to be ID number, age, label, and number. Okay, we did this. Now, it is kind of necessary for us to fill out what this for is for. So inside the label, we are using for on the top one for the name, which corresponds to the ID, which is name. Now, for proper binding for the label and the input, we need to give the for the text email should be matching the ID as email. Over here for the age, currently the for is empty. We're going to change this to number, which matches the ID as number. Okay, so we covered all the way the story number 9 and we did story number 10. Let's look at story number 11. For the name, email, and number input fields, I can see a placeholder text that gives me the description of the instructions of each field. Okay, where do we add the placeholders? Placeholders usually go inside the input field. So go back up to your input. After required, I'm going to add a placeholder and I'm going to say enter your full name. For email as well, we're going to do the same. Placeholder, enter your email address. And for the age, after the min and max, placeholder, enter your age. And don't forget to save this. Now, let's look at how our form is looking. Currently, this looks pretty terrible. It's the white background, the black text, and the font is pretty bad as well. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create body, background color, say black, color, shortcut FFF, 3 Fs gives you white text. I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to go to Google Fonts. I would like to pick up Roboto, and all the way when you select Roboto, at your right side you will see this. Just copy this, go back to your form, all the way at the top of your div container, just paste it over there, save it. You go back to Roboto, font family, copy this, go back to your code pen, inside your body, save this, save it. Now look at it. It looks way better than this one. But we're going to work on this one. What you have to do is go to your settings, go to CSS, scroll down, search over here, Bootstrap. Click, save. Automatically, Bootstrap will add classes for you. So what we're going to do, how to get the proper styling and classes for each of them. In order to do it, there are default styles available and classes available for the form elements. In order to get those classes to kick in, what we're going to do is we are going to our input field right over here, right underneath, we are going to give a class called form control. If you give form control, immediately you will see the width automatically increased all the way. The name field went on top instead of staying to your left side. I'm going to do the same thing for, say, email. I'm going to give a class form control. I'm going to do the same thing for our age. Give a class form control. If you see now, save it, please. Don't forget, it's properly aligned, same width provided. And if you see, you can actually increase the age by clicking the button and decreasing by clicking the button. We set it to minimum age as 10. If you remember, min age is 10. All right, so we finished number 11. And now we are going to look at number 12. Inside the form element, I can select an option from the drop-down that has corresponding ID drop-down. In order to create a drop-down, all you have to do is come back. Inside the form, we're going to give another div. Inside this, we're going to give the class as form group. And if you go back to my picture over here, we're going to ask them, where did you watch Marvel movies? Okay. So this will be inside a p tag. And we're going to say, where did you watch Marvel movies? All right. In order to provide a drop-down, the user has to select something from the drop-down. So we're going to create a select tag, which takes name, ID, and we will fill those out in a second. Let's do it right now. So name is going to be a role. ID, obviously, it's going to be a drop-down. If you go back and have a look at it, we need the ID for do. Copy this, paste it over there, and I'm going to put this one in an order. And we are asking the users to select one of them, at least one of them. So we're going to make this as required. And at the same time, we're going to give them the class, which is going to be a form control. We're going to save this. Now, what are we asking the users to select? Well, we have to provide those options. So they fall into the tag called options. Option first one would be select one option. To do option number 2, value, say he watched, the user watched the movies at the cinemas. So at cinemas. The second option we're going to provide is, say, stream. Maybe the person streamed the video. Stream online. Or I'm going to leave the other one option as other. I'll make it other. And let's save this and quickly have a look how it looks like. Cinema streamed and others. Looks good to me. I can select one, yeah. Stream, yeah. Other, yeah, it works. Now, let's go back and we're going to disable the stream right now, it looks active. You don't know where it is. So what we're going to do, we're going to disable this select one so that it has kind of a grayish background. So what we're going to do is value, going to remove the value. But in the options, we're going to disable it. And the selected is the keyword which is going to add, and save it. Let's go back. And if you see, it has a gray background, but you cannot select this. Now you have only 3 options available to select it from. All right, let's jump on to user story number 13. Inside the form element, I can select a field from one or more groups of radio buttons. Each group should be grouped using the name attribute. Okay, we are going to create radio buttons now. Go to form, pull this down. Let's do another one. Create. Let's do a dev. Oops. Give it a class. Going to give form check instead. And we're going to give, let's see what options we have. What was your reactions to Avengers Endgame? Okay. What was your reaction to Avengers Endgame? And we're going to, actually this should be wrapped in a P tag. I don't want this hanging by itself, so I'm going to cut this one up. Looks better inside a P tag rather than just by itself. Now, in order for the users to select any one of the radio buttons, we need to provide it. So the user is trying to get some input. We're grabbing the input from the user. So it's going to be type. Before input, we need to create a label as well. Wait, that's what I'm missing. You need a label to let them know what styles we want. So label. Inside the label, we're going to give the input, and the radio buttons going to be type radio, and we're going to give a name. This is going to be a user recommend. Value is going to be excellent. That's your first option. And for this, it gets a different class. So class is going to be called as form check dot dash input, not dot. And the user has to check that. For input fields, you don't have a self-closing tag, but you can just do it as excellent. Save this. Form check. Looks good. Class check. Yep, this looks good to me. All right, we're going to create another one. So I'm going to create another div which holds this. So I'm going to close this one up so that we don't get confused. I have to create a, just like that, similar div which will hold another option, which is going to be good. So we have the user recommended, value would be good, type will be radio, class would be form check input. And we will also going to add a third one, which is going to be the same class, div with form check, right over there. And we're going to be a last one, which is going to be the awful option. The awful. If you save this, screen up, these are your, don't worry about this one. We're going to do the styles later and adjust the padding and the margin. Right now, we just wanted to see if these buttons are up working or not. We only want to give the person one option. You cannot have all 4 options available. Okay, so let's look at user story number 14. Inside the form element, I can select several fields from a series of checkboxes, each of which must have a value attribute. Okay, go to, right above form, I'm going to create another div, give a class, form group. I'm going to give another class which is called as row, because the reason why I want to do row, if you look at a picture, I want all these options at the end to be in 3 columns. I don't want them to be in one long row as the option provided to us in the Freecodecamp, but I wanted to make it as 3 columns. So all those will be side by side. So let's look at it. I'm going to create a p tag, and we're going to ask who is your favorite character. And I'm going to give another span tag. Class going to be clue. I'm going to say put it in parentheses, brackets, or check all that apply. You have more options for the users to pick from. Now, inside that, I'm going to give a div with a class form check. In order for us to do 3 columns, I'm going to do call small for. Okay, inside that, we're going to give a input, going to be text for now, and make the text onto a separate row. Give this. All right, now this one gets a class which is going to be form check input as well, same as the above. Type is going to be not text but checkbox, and the checkbox the value attribute should match. Checkboxes must have the value attributes. Okay, checkbox. Let's say ID going to be, say, check 1, and the name, first name, we are going to give label form for a second, class form check label. Let's say the first one is going to be Ant-Man. Inside, the name is also going to be Ant-Man, and value is going to be something. Just, you can write up whatever value you want. For the time being, I'm just going to make it as something. Save this. Just want to see how it looks. You can't see at the bottom, but all the way at the bottom there is Ant-Man with a checkbox over here. So to speed up the video, I created a few so that I'm not taking the entire time for this, or not your time. I'm just going to copy paste a few things. It's the same format. I'm going to copy it for you. The second one is going to be Black Panther. I gave the name Black Panther value, and the ID is going to be check2. You cannot have the same ID. It has to be 2 different IDs. So we're going to be number 3rd is going to be, what was Black Panther? Then you have Black Widow, alphabetical order if I'm going. Name should be the same, not option 1, but it's going to be Black Widow. 4. All right, if I save this, look up over here, I created 3 columns because of Bootstrap styles. I used the class row and I used col small 4. It gave me these 3 columns, and I'm going to add classes later. Okay, let's jump on to user story. I believe it is 15. Inside the form element, I'm presented with a text area at the end for additional comments. So I'm going to give dev class form group additional comments. So going to be say any comments or suggestions, right? And it requires a text area. Text area gets all these fields. So I'm going to ID, name, ID, column, rows, 30. Side, I'm going to add a placeholder which says enter your comments here. 1, 2, 3 dots. Save this. Say comment. Is there an ID for the text area? No, there's no ID. I can give an ID. Let's say comments will be the ID as well. And inside that, we're going to give a class which is called as form control. Let's save this and see how it looks. Wow, this is way too big for us. What if we remove the columns and the rows and see what happens? Okay, this is better. We don't want 30 rows and 30 columns, but yeah, this is better for now. And let's look at 16. Inside the form element, I am presented with a button with ID submit to submit all my inputs. So I'm going to create another div with class form group. Oops, sorry, typo, group, which has a button submit. Button, I'm going to give you type submit. ID is also going to be submit. I'm going to give a default classes for button, which is button primary, which automatically changes to blue color. And if I save this, scroll to your studio right over here. Now, all is left for us to do is add some styling, right? Scroll all the way back up. And let's look at it. So I'm going to copy a background image. Before that, I'm going to write a small comment. I don't own the copyright of the image. This image is being used for education purpose only. Since I don't have the copyright of the image, I'm just going to put it as I don't have the copyright. I'm just being honest with it for the time being. All right, so we have given our background color as black and the color as white. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a background image. In order to add a background image, the way you do is background image, which takes a URL, and we paste that URL over here. So you can go to Pixabay or any free royalty-free pictures. You can copy them, get a link, and paste it over here inside those two brackets. Now, what we're going to do is make this background attachment as fixed, and the background size is going to be a cover, and the position, which is going to be center and center, so that we are centering together. And we don't want the background to repeat itself, so background repeat is going to be no repeat. Yeah, let's save this and see how it looks. Looks pretty good to me. Now, because your background is white and this one is white, so you can't see, in order to avoid all that, we're going to add some styles to it. So remember, we created a class called container, and we're going to add some styles to it. So go class container, which is right over here on the line 4. We're going to add a width of 100%. We're going to give some margins. So I'm going to give, say, about 3.5 EM top left, auto bottom, oh sorry, auto, and at the bottom, top right bottom left is going to be 0.8 EM. Okay, gonna save this, pushes this back to the left. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some background for this. It doesn't look good, you can't see the white text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the form element, which is right, going to header form action ID survey. I can do form. I want to give it a width of, say, about 620 pixel, which is way too wide currently. I'm going to give a background color. Going to give RGB 101, 26, 101. I'm going to give RGBA as well, give 0.8. Now, not only that, I'm going to give some padding. Top and bottom is going to be 10 pixel, left and right is going to be 20 pixel. And I'm going to give some border radius. It's going to be 10 pixel. And let's see how the form looks right now. Looks much better compared to what it was before, but I'm still going to fix this marble feedback form. And currently looks great. I'm going to finish this one a little bit further. Now, if we look at our header tag right up over here, we have this title, which is way too big. I'm going to target the title by giving title ID. Let's say font size is going to be 2 EM. 2 EM is about 32 pixel. And margin left is going to be 20 pixel. If you don't know how to find what 2 EM is, click over here to inspect, computed. It should show right here, font size 32 pixel on bottom right side. Scroll this down. Now I'm going to target description as well. Say description. I'm going to give margin left a little bit, 20 pixel, because it is touching to the left. So I'm going to make it all even. Gonna save this. I'm going to give some color to the header. Let's say header tag. Let's say give some background. I'm at 3082. I got this color from the image. I'm going to fix the width right now, so don't worry about it. It's not width. 48%. Border radius 10 pixel. Look up. Looks way better right now. We did form. I'm gonna add a little bit of styles to this entire form group as well. Scroll up. Dot form group. Let's say I'm gonna give margin typos. I'm gonna top will be 0, right, bottom, left. And I'm gonna give a padding of 0.25 EM altogether. Save this. Okay, getting there. And we're going to target the paragraph tags. think description, gonna give some margin as well. Currently, they're all close together. So paragraph, say I'm gonna give margin of 10 pixel, top and bottom, right and left is okay, it's fine. It's good. Save this. So going to do, say, let row P margin left minus 2%, margin bottom is going to be, say, 1%, margin top is going to be 2%. I did this way just for us to play around and see. All right, this one's fixed. These two are together. And I'm also going to give form check P, say margin 15 pixel, top left, minus 21 pixel, close, save. Let's see. Okay, this looks good. All right, this one's all in together. Comment looks good. And I'm going to add some styles for responsive to be one of smaller screens. So let's say media, let's screen and at max, no wait, max width. Cell phones are usually at 480 pixels. They start at, like, not start at, I'm sorry. They start at 300s all the way up. So we're going to do a max width of 480. That's the first one. Our container, we're going to target, going to have a margin 10% 0. And we're going to target form element with a width of, say, 260. Let's do, yeah, 2 pixel. And then we're going to add some styles to the header. Let's say make the header and the form the same size, so by 268 pixel. And the title, obviously the Marvel title, I'm going to make it a smaller size than what it is. So currently it is at 2 EM. We're going to make it as 3.5 EM. We're going to add some padding around it, top right, bottom left, so 5 pixel. Not only we do the title, we're going to give some description styles as well. Description, heading, bottom 5%. If we save all this together, let's look at our full screen. Looks pretty good. I mean, you have the Marvel form over here. The reason why I'm putting the whole form to the left side is you can actually see this entire A, so that we are not overlapping our form on top of the image. That's very bad practice. If you have image at the back and you're trying to put on the top of it, try to find something with a darker background so that it covers the entire image, or just put the form to the left side or the right side depending upon where the image is, what type of image you're using. So this looks good. Quickly look at the mobile. Go inspect. Switch it to mobile. iPhone 11. Looks okay. You can definitely add more styles and reduce the size of the header, description. Everything is centered right now. Looks pretty clean. Nothing too clunky. And before we finish, we wanted to see if we passed all our user stories or not. So go up over here. Currently we are working on survey form, and let's run the test. Well, look at it. We passed all 17 test cases are passed. If you haven't passed any test cases, all you have to do is run this test, go through it, see where you missed it. Go through all these 16 user stories and just find the errors, fix them, and save them. Once you're done, save your link or share it with your friends, wherever it is. Until then, we will be creating a next challenge. I believe the next challenge is, let's look at it. Responsive web design. Projects. Product landing page. We will be working on the product landing page in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye.